We treat the walls of our homes as an absolute border. Security is often measured by the strength of a deadbolt or the height of a fence, protections designed to keep the world out. But the Hinterkaifeck case presents a different kind of intrusion. It is the story of a stranger who bypassed the locks, climbed into the attic, and settled into the shadows directly above a family's heads. On April 4, 1922, neighbors arrived at the isolated farmstead to investigate why the residents hadn't been seen for days. Inside the barn and the main house, they discovered the bodies of 6 people, including a 9-year-old girl and a 2-year-old boy. When the Munich police arrived, they found a crime scene that appeared to be still in use. While the Gruber family had been dead since the previous Friday, the farm had remained active throughout the weekend. Understanding who committed these acts requires looking past the violence and examining the conflicting trail of evidence left across the property. The killer's behavior changed significantly over the course of a week, shifting from observation to action, and finally to a strange sort of residency. This is a case where the killer didn't just strike and flee. They took up residence in the house, transforming a family's private sanctuary into a staging ground for a murder, and then into their own temporary home. In the days leading up to the murders, the farm became a place of quiet, one-sided observation. Andreas Gruber, the family patriarch, found a trail of footprints in the fresh snow leading from the forest directly toward the farm buildings. He searched the property but found no tracks leading back into the trees. Inside the house, the family felt the intruder's presence grow. House keys went missing from a desk. A newspaper from Munich, a city 40 miles away, appeared on the porch. Above their bedrooms, the family heard the rhythmic sound of footsteps pacing across the attic floorboards in the middle of the night. By the evening of March 31st, this period of watching ended. The intruder moved from the attic down into the farm's workspace. The killer operated with a calculated efficiency. 4 members of the household were led into the barn one by one. Andreas, his wife Cecilia, their daughter Victoria, and her daughter Cecilia were killed using a heavy mattock, a tool designed for breaking hard ground. The killer then entered the main residence to finish the attack. They moved through the quiet rooms to find the new maid, Maria Baumgartner, and the youngest child, Joseph, ending their lives where they slept. This shift from patient observation to a systematic clearing of the house reveals a predator who prioritized timing and control. The killer waited until the family was at their most vulnerable before moving to secure the property. The most inexplicable evidence surfaced after the household had been silenced. For 3 days following the murders, the killer remained at Hinterkaifeck. They did not hide in the attic or flee into the woods. They stepped into the daily rhythm of the farm. Neighbors later noted that the livestock appeared well-tended. The cattle had been fed and watered, and the cows had been milked. The killer had taken it upon themselves to maintain the animals, even as the owners lay dead only a few yards away. The intruder used the kitchen as if it were their own. They prepared meals using the family's supplies and kept the stove burning through the cold April weekend. Passers-by saw smoke rising from the chimney, a sign of life that kept the murders hidden for days. This behavior contradicts the motives of a typical thief. While the killer helped themselves to the pantry, they left a significant amount of cash and jewelry untouched in the house. If we look at the data, the evidence points away from a robbery and toward a motive of possession. Instead of extracting resources and fleeing, the killer focused on utilizing the space and maintaining the property's functions. The intruder stayed long enough to consume the family's food and tend to their animals, suggesting that their goal was the temporary occupation of the farm itself. For that weekend, the killer lived as the master of a house they had just emptied. No one was ever charged with the Hinterkaifeck murders. Despite thousands of pages of testimony and dozens of suspects, the case remains unsolved because the killer's profile doesn't fit the patterns of a standard criminal. The isolation of the Bavarian landscape provided the killer with a perfect shroud. In this environment, a stranger could move across the fields and into a barn without ever being spotted by a neighbor. The most haunting image from the investigation is the evidence left in the attic. Police found indentations in the hay where someone had been sleeping, and tiles that had been shifted to create a vantage point looking down into the yard. Hinterkaifeck endures as a mystery because it describes a threat that was already inside. It is the story of a killer who sat quietly in the dark for days, listening to a family eat, talk, and sleep, waiting for the moment to make the house their own.